I'm sure most of you are already aware that those beginning scenes where we first see the Terminator arriving in 1984 were shot right here at the LA Observatory. Now they were shot in the back of the observatory, right over here on the left side. Now this is where we see the trash truck, and as you can see, things look pretty much the same. A few things have changed back here, but for the most part, it looks just like it did. This is where we first see the Terminator. He would have been crouched down right here in front of this wall. We then see a very naked Arnold stand up and walk right over here this way and stand in front of this wall looking at the view of Los Angeles. Right out here in the parking lot is where the punks were hanging out, and it looks a little bit different because that structure that they were hanging out in front of is gone. But you can see right over here is the telescopes, so this is the general area where that structure was. Now, fun fact about that scene, one of the punks is played by Bill Paxton, and one of the other punks is played by Brian Thompson, who was the night slasher in the movie Cobra. Now, yet again, we see a completely naked Terminator walking right towards the punks with the observatory in the background behind him. We get a shot very similar to this one. You can see this fire hydrant as the camera spins around this way to this alley. And this is the alley where we first see Kyle Reese fall from the sky and land in 1984. Now this is definitely not the last time we're going to see this alley. After exiting the department store using the fire escape, he comes out of this alley and then past all of these stores, heading down this way before crossing the street to the payphone. This restaurant right here, this is where Sarah Connor worked. We see her riding down the street right here on her Honda Elite scooter, and then she comes up that driveway and onto the sidewalk. She passes right by that tree and lamppost and then continues down the sidewalk right here past that building and then ends up locking up her scooter right here to this tree. And when she's locking her scooter up to this tree, you can actually see the chevron across the street for just a split second. Now in the movie it was called Big Jeff's. It's now a Caro's restaurant. But right there is where it would have said Big Jeff's, and there would have been some newsstands right there. And then right here on the grass would have been the Big Jeff's mascot. Now I'm sure you already recognize it. This was of course the gun shop where the Terminator comes to buy all his guns before starting his hunt for Sarah Connor. It's now a used car dealer, but the cool thing is the building still looks pretty much exactly the same. Now they've added a few parts to the sign right there, but you can still see where it used to spell out Alamo. The Terminator walks through the front door right here, and it still has the same address numbers above the door that we see in the movie. In this alley right there on the left side, this is where we see Reese tying the shotgun around his shoulder so he can hide it under his coat. Now this alley is directly across the street from the alley where we first see Reese fall into 1984. Both alleys are used multiple times in the movie, and the way that you can really tell is right across the street there was a small food establishment with a striped awning that can be seen multiple times. So the scene where he yanks the guy off the payphone, believe it or not, it happens in the same spot right here in front of where the gun shop was. The Terminator would have pulled up exactly where this Mustang is, and you can see this building across the street, which still looks pretty much exactly the same. Right there on the corner would have been a Cupid's Hot Dogs, which I actually used to eat at. He gets out of the car and he walks right over here and yanks the guy off the payphone, which would have been right there. And you can see the legs of this billboard right here in the background behind him. We see the Terminator pull up right here when he's going to the list of Sarah Connors that he found in the phone book. Of course, this is the house of the wrong Sarah Connor. Now, I think the only two houses that are the same are this house and this house, which can be seen in the background behind him when he gets out of the car. He comes around the car right here and he walks up to her front porch, but as you can see, her house no longer exists. It's been torn down and turned into an apartment building, but this is where the house of the first Sarah Connor would have been. This is where Reese was sitting in his car right in front of the construction site, and as he watched all the construction vehicles, it caused him to have flashbacks to the wars that were going on in the future. So these apartment buildings right here, this is what was being built at the time when they were filming Terminator. After he wakes up from his dream / flashback, he pulls away from the curb and he heads down the street this way, and we get a shot of downtown Los Angeles, and it's slightly different now because the buildings have changed, but this is the shot we get. Sarah Connor was walking down the street right here when she first notices Reese following her, and we see her pass right underneath this sign, and then she heads into Club Tech Noir. Now, hopefully I'm saying that right. I feel like I'm not, but I think right here this would have been the entrance to Tech Noir, and then right next door I think this was just like a window. But the way that we know that this is the right spot is this sign right here. But yeah, pretty much all of this right here, this would have been Club Tech Noir. We get a quick shot of this apartment building across the street before the Terminator steps into frame and then moves up the sidewalk to Sarah Connor's apartment. He would have walked right up those front steps and headed over to the directory, and as you can see, Sarah Connor's apartment looks pretty much exactly like it did in the movie. Again, we find ourselves back at the same alley from the beginning of the movie. This was the alley where Reese first lands in 1984, but now this is where Reese is backing down the alley and the Terminator lands on the hood, punching through the windshield, trying to grab Sarah Connor. And as they come out of the alley and the camera spins around, you can actually see this building across the street. Notice the design right up there on the building. And right over here, coincidentally enough, where this police car is parked, pretty much right in front of that police car, that's where the cop car was parked in the movie, where the Terminator ends up coming over and taking the cop car. That chase scene is shot all around downtown Los Angeles. At least a few times they pass by the Huntington Hotel, which you can see right here on my right side. Reese comes around the corner right here and then up onto the sidewalk and right past this building. We see them coming down the street right here, and you can see that sign in the background for Hotel Clark. Reese is driving right here as the police car pulls up next to him. Notice that jewelry store on the corner. And once again, we're back at the same alleys from the beginning of the movie. This was the alley where Reese was tying the shotgun around his arm. This time, he's headed down the alley with the police car chasing him, and he hits the brakes real quick and then backs up, slamming into the police car. Reese ducks into this parking garage to hide from the cops and from the Terminator. Right there inside this garage, that's where they're hiding out. Too bad the poles aren't painted bright yellow anymore. After a quick chase with the Terminator, they come out of this driveway right here. And as they head into the street, the camera spins around and you get a good shot of this building right here. And although it's completely covered by trees now, the building actually does look exactly the same. They're speeding down Lower Grand right here as the Terminator's chasing after them. I don't know what the heck's going on right here. Basically right there, Sarah Connor's driving the car, Reese is hanging out of it, the Terminator is chasing after them, and Sarah Connor throws the car into park, and the Terminator continues this way and smashes right into that wall. Now this does look a little bit different because all of this right here was open at the time. These walls weren't here, there were no buildings, so all of this right here would have just been a fence. This building right here used to be the Tiki Motel, the spot where Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor hide out from the Terminator and make pipe bombs in room number 9. It's now private apartments, but it still has pretty much the exact same look that it did in the movie, except for the front right here has been filled in. This is where the driveway used to be. But if we come around here to the back, you can see right there is where number 9 used to be. And right over there would have been the driveway leading back to the parking lot. That apartment right there didn't exist at the time. And then the front office would have been right there as well. Now when the Terminator is leaving the motel getting on the motorcycle, you can see a hamburger stand across the street called Spartanburger. Now right over in this area is where the Terminator was getting on the motorcycle, and if we look across the street, there it is, Spartanburger, still there all these years later. Pretty cool. Grand Avenue between 2nd Street and 3rd Street. This is where the Terminator is chasing Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, and Sarah Connor uses the truck to crush the Terminator up against the curb right there before eventually flipping the truck that she's in over this railing and landing in the middle of the street. And then of course right there across the street is where the semi-truck comes along and runs over the Terminator. And most of these buildings right here can be seen. Of course, then the Terminator ends up stealing the semi-truck and making a U-turn right here around the railings and coming after Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, which would have been in the middle of the street right here. Now, this is, of course, the location where the climax of the movie takes place. Reese and Sarah are running down this ramp right here, and the Terminator is following behind them in the semi-truck. Now they come running around the corner right there, and the Terminator's following behind them, and right where that fire hydrant and lamppost is, there was a dumpster, and that's where Reese trips and falls on the ground. Sarah takes off running down this sidewalk, and Reese throws one of his last bombs in the back of the truck, and then jumps in a dumpster. Maybe one of these dumpsters right here, who knows? As she's running down the sidewalk here, and the Terminator is in the truck following right behind her. This is the exact shot we get as she's running away and the truck explodes right behind her. Now they think everything is all over. They just watched the truck and the Terminator explode. Everything out here in the street is on fire. And then that's when they see the Terminator stand up and come walking towards them. And they take off running into this building through that door right there. They run through this door and inside the building, which in the movie is a robotics factory. And the Terminator follows them, and that's where the finale of the movie takes place. We see Sarah driving somewhere in the Mojave Desert, and then she pulls into this gas station, which we can assume is supposed to be somewhere in Mexico. She pulls up to this gas pump right here, asks the attendant to fill it up, and then as she's sitting in her car, a young boy comes up and takes her picture, and of course that's the same picture that Kyle Reese has earlier in the movie. The boy tells her that a storm is coming. Sarah pulls back out onto the road and heads off down the street towards those super realistic mountains. But unfortunately, as you can see, the mountains have been torn down. Okay, before anybody tells me in the comments that the mountains haven't been torn down, that was obviously a joke. Those mountains are obviously extremely fake, and also that scene wasn't even filmed here. And the way that you can tell, when she's first pulling into the gas station, you can see these utility poles right here. And then when she pulls back out onto the road, there's no utility poles anywhere in sight. And if you look down this road, as you can see, utility poles as far as the eye can see. So That scene of her pulling away was not filmed here, but I'm pretty sure it was filmed somewhere in this area, just not exactly sure where.
I'll be back.